Hey everybody, Dustin DePirek here. Mike Fellish, I guess, I don't know, IU Media Mobile or whatever. He's worked for a whole bunch of people. At the moment, he's the videographer for IU Baseball. He's also a stowaway and the only other IU Media member of this that's on this trip out here in Omaha. So, you guys know I'm not very good when I do this on my own. So, I don't know. He's here.
Wearing an IU shirt.
Yeah, you're representing a little bit too much, but I guess I'll deal. Anyway, point being, Indiana wins 5-2 in the first game of the Big Ten tournament back in Omaha at TD Ameritrade Park for the first time since the World Series last year. Tracy Smith was not really that pleased just with the quality of play in this one, but really important first off just for them to win Game 1 and to stay in the winner's bracket just to start it, because obviously that helps them in a lot of ways. Joey Donato wasn't at his best today, wasn't at his absolute best today, especially early, but kind of found a groove, especially late, ends up with 9 strikeouts, 8 innings, 7 hits, didn't walk a guy. It seems to me just kind of vintage Donato, one of those games in which maybe he doesn't have his best stuff, maybe not everything is going well for him early, had 2 very uncharacteristic fielding errors early, but it seemed like he just really settled down and kind of found it as the game went on.
Yeah, he had a fielding error and a throwing error early on, and that cost Indiana a couple runs in the early goings, but you say that he doesn't have his best game on the mound, and he's still able to come out with a quality start. It's 2 for 2 in Omaha. He's a pitcher that comes out and performs on the big stage, and he gets the job done. When you talk to any player after a post-game asking them about Joey Donato, there's always one response. It's Joey being Joey. Yeah. Joey Knees, Joey Baseball, whatever you call him. He's got 12 wins on the season now. And Tracy Smith talked about in the postgame, he has a lot of confidence whenever he's on the mound for the Hoosiers.
I thought that Smith made a really interesting point. I thought he said that one of his favorite quotes about pitching is that your job is to keep them from scoring runs even after they've already scored runs. And that is, in a lot of cases, just what Donato does well. Is that when he's in a jam or even when he gets up a run, a lot of guys unravel when they start to realize, man, this is really coming down on my head. I've got a whole bunch of guys on. They start making mistakes. They start falling apart. That's kind of when you see those guys just seem to lose it. And you've seen that from Indiana pitchers, basically everybody around the league. Donato just doesn't do that. Donato just does not, kind of allow one mistake to become 2 to become 3.
Well, you go back to his game last year here at TD Ameritrade against Louisville. Skip said in the postgame then, and I'm surprised I didn't remember this, but as the innings go on, he gets better. That's just the kind of pitcher he is. He talked about in the postgame today how his breaking ball started working for him more in the later innings, particularly his slider. Yeah. So when you get that breaking ball command, and Skip has said it before, he's not the throw hard, get you out kind of pitcher. He just gets the job done. He has a good defense behind it. Casey Rodriguez flashes leather over at second base a lot today for the Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Not the flashiest of plays, but they did the job done on the defensive side, and of course,
other than Donato, the rare occasion that Donato was, I think he had 1 error before today, and it was just, there was one play I think it was just an errant pickoff, and then he just didn't field a bunt. One really came really back hard at him. He was just could tell that he could get to play at second base. I think he was a little bit too. Anxious about that, just about making that play. Yeah. But everybody else, they had one. Dustin DeMuth had a throwing error. They managed to get out of that despite that fact. He kind of skipped one. Sam Travis makes that play. If that's a Bart Kaufman field, he makes that play, basically. But it's kind of a shadow issue at TD Ameritrade. He had there was kind of a break in the shadows there where I think he just kind of lost the ball, more or less. And that was, but he's, managed to kind of get a rebound. One kind of came off the fence, basically, and he managed to throw a guy out trying to score at that point. Interesting day offensively, just because everybody in the middle of the order hit, but they didn't get a lot of production out of that. I think Sam Travis, Scott Donnelly, DeMuth, Hartung all had hits. Kyle Schwarber drove a run in, but that wasn't really the guys that really did the damage today. Casey Rodriguez 3 for 3, 2 RBIs, run scored, single, double, triple. Theoretically, I guess he had a shot at the cycle if you ever have a shot at the cycle in TD Ameritrade Park, particularly when you're like 5'9". It's not easy to hit it out here, but basically, those guys. Nick Ramos had a couple big hits. Tim O'Connor had his first extra base hit of the year. I think that was the farthest ball I've seen Tim O'Connor hit. Just how important were those guys today? Guys like Casey Rodriguez. I think had been 2 for 22.
Right.
Those guys were pretty critical.
I think it's important for Indiana. I think this team so often is. They're spoiled. With hitters like Travis Schwarber and DeMuth. don't want to think too far ahead of after the season of what happens with them. DeMuth obviously gone after graduation. But
Travis and Schwarber gone. Let's be real about this.
All right, they're probably going.
They're going. They're going to be top 3 round picks. They're going to make millions of dollars. This is not a discussion. They're going to go.
But for these guys in the top of the order and the bottom of the order, and you talked about O'Connor, Ramos, and Rodrigue, being able to get the job done not necessarily gives these power hitters a day off, but lets them know that maybe we're not going to have the most productive day at the plate, but I'll have Rodrigue hit for me. I'll have O'Connor hit for me. I mean, that's something that's not even talked about that much. That's a good double leadoff that Indiana has. Yes, O'Connor has a low batting average, but when he gets on and it works, I think.
He has speed. I'll grant that. O'Connor's in there for his defense because he's been phenomenal in center. Offense, not so much. But every once in a while, you get anything out of him. I mean, obviously, he had an important RBI ground out against Louisville a couple weeks ago. He does make contact if nothing else. He doesn't necessarily. There's not a lot of power, but today. Obviously hit it probably 3/4 of the way out to the left field line.
I saw that look you gave me. What I meant to say is when it works,
it works. I was going to say, a guy that hits 180, you can't call a double leadoff hitter. It doesn't work that way.
You're right. Two speedy guys. We'll roll with that. And Schwarber's got true. Speed, too.
No, Schwarber can absolutely run. I mean, he's almost, he's operated by the lead. Basically, when Rodriguez hasn't had great games, Schwarber has more or less been the leadoff hitter. That's why he's leading the league in runs. I think Rick Heller also put it well. He said, there's just so many guys that can beat you, and if the guys that are beating you are not the guys that are supposed to, if you manage to keep, Sam Travis and Kyle Schwarber and Dustin DeMuth and Brad Hartung and Scott Donnelly from beating, if those guys, those guys don't beat you and you still lose, it's disheartening. Simply because, if you get past that part of the lineup, you're supposed to feel okay. You're supposed to feel like you can take a breath, and that wasn't the case tonight. It was other guys that they made mistakes too. That were the ones that really beat him. Obviously, again, a lot of ways, Tracy wasn't thrilled with the way, Tracy Smith was not thrilled with the way things went. Wanted better defense, wanted some better at-bats, but they managed to get a win in large part because, of guys you don't usually see.
Mm-hmm. And, it's a good win. I mean, you asked Skip after the game just how good is it to get this win under the belt. He said it's huge. You want to talk about confidence, all that kind of stuff. Yes. But
pitching's an issue.
Pitching's an issue. One thing we haven't mentioned yet was that Skip is not going to use any starter
on short rest.
So he's not going to throw Joey out there probably for the rest of the Big Ten tournament. Save him up for the regional. Same things for guys like Cordy and even Christian Morris as well.
It's an issue because of this. To kind of put in perspective why we're even talking about that. This is the first year it's an 8-team tournament, and you got to win 4 games to win the whole thing. Basically, you can't do it with less than 4. In a 6-game tournament, you can win 3 and win the whole thing. And basically, college pitching staffs, you're set up for 3 starters on the weekend and a weekday guy. So very rarely does anybody have more than 4 starters. And if you're in this situation, you need to win to get in. If you're basically anybody but Indiana and Nebraska, Illinois is kind of on the bubble. Like, you got to do whatever you got to do to win this thing because that's the only way you play on. Indiana obviously knows that they're going to be, they're going to be in the tournament regardless. They're probably going to host they're going to host regardless of what happens here. Could get a national seed, maybe regardless of what happens here from this point on. But a lot of other guys, if you have to go a 5th game, you're going to have to use your number 1 starter again, or you're going to have to try to find somebody else. Tracy's made the point of saying, okay, we're using our 4 starters and that's it. Once we get past that point, if we have to play a 5th game, we'll use somebody else. We're not going to go back to Donato again. We're not going to go back to Morris again. Nobody's going to pitch more than 1 game. We're not going to overextend. We're not going to kill our pitching staff for the regional for this. Now, what happens if they have to play a 5th game? I really don't know. If you're not going to use one of your 4 starters, I don't know who they'll go to. I don't know if they'll do something crazy risky and try Will Corson Carr again because we haven't seen him in a while. I doubt it. Or maybe just literally go relievers all day. Go somebody Luke Harrison for 2 or 3, or Scott F. Ross for 3 or 4, or something like that, or just do the bullpen thing. But Donato's not going to pitch twice. Morris is not going to pitch twice. Cordy, Stadler, obviously, if Stadler pitches, it'll probably be the title game. So all that's kind of a big sort of policy decision he made before he went in for this one. And basically, it's easier to do if you never go to the loser's bracket. If you win straight through, you go through your rotation, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So,
which is good for Stadler really quickly because he has had some big games.
But there won't be anything that if you look forward and he gets the title game, it'd be the biggest situation he's ever been in. You know, he has, like you said, won some big games against Louisville, but that becomes a really kind of interesting sort of maturity moment for him. So anyway, interesting stuff. But they get past this one. They play 10 o'clock tomorrow night. That's going to be a blast on Deadline. I'm going to love it. It's going to be great. But thank you for the HT for holding the deadline to 1:30. So nice. Thanks, guys. Anyway, talk to you all later.